What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And you know what? I promised you guys I would be back in the role. I'd have my guest list rolling back again. And in the last episode, I talked about all it takes is actually putting the process together or making the outreach and being intentional with scheduling things. And I tell you what, this week alone, I have 3 podcast episodes scheduled and ready to go. This is the first one. We are on Monday recording with my friend Glenn Nixon, and I'm super excited. This is his very first podcast. You all know how excited I get to have people for their very first time, and it's going to be a memorable one. So it reminds me, I just had my client Sparkle Lindsay, and last episode in town, and I was her very first podcast she'd ever went on. And now here we are 5 years later, and she's been on over 400 podcasts and TV shows. And it's been one of the biggest ways that she's grown her business. And that's the power of this content, because you can create this video, you can put it out there, and it will probably outlive you. If you think about it, it's going to be out there forever. And people get to watch it while you're working, while you're sleeping, while, you're golfing, while you're hanging with clients, or, whatever it is that you're doing, that people get to watch and expose themselves to you, and it's so powerful. And so, just a reminder, get out there. I've had people reach out to me that, hey, I have a phenomenal story. I'm an entrepreneur. I've overcome these challenges, or I have this insight to offer. Which our stories are data with soul. So if you have something and you really need to share that story, shoot me a message. I've had several people over the years that have just shot me a message and said, hey, shot in the dark, would you have me on the podcast? And it's equated to a conversation, and then they have come on the show. So that's all it takes. And again, just it's taking the action. So without further ado, I'm super excited to have Glenn in. We got a chance to meet. It was about a year ago. From Mike Anger was one of the main people that connected us. Mike and Kara Anger have both been on. Kara's actually been on the show twice, and then Mike and Kara came on together, husband-wife duo, and that's the way it works. People have always asked me over the years, is it hard to get guests? And I'm like, no. I have a hard time actually cutting off. And it's like I could book out for a year. And so I only like to be a couple months ahead, because I get excited when I have a new conversation and I want to have that person on right away. The really awesome thing is now having this content studio and being able to book anybody anytime. So I will stop babbling on now, man. Glenn, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Loudmouth.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Good to be here. It's been a little bit of a journey and a process from the time we first talked about this, and hopefully we'll get to that story a little bit, because that was kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because everything happens for a reason. And when we first met, I'm like, have these few things going on, and I'm trying to figure out and balance, like, what do I have here? I know I have something, but what am I doing and putting together? Mm-hmm. And now fast forward over this course of time, I'm really feeling it put together. And then again, being able to have you on inside the studio and have a little bit more freedom to, do what we want.
Yeah, this is very cool. Yeah. Look, I've been looking forward to it. So you don't remember the story, do you, exactly?
Tell me.
So we had talked, I guess it was wintertime, and I said, hey, I'd like to be on your podcast.
Yes.
He said, okay, let's book it. And so we booked it. It was like a week before.
Yep.
And you shot me a note and said, I really hate to tell you this.
I do remember this, yes.
But this is my 200th. I booked you on my 200th podcast, and I promised my mom that I would have her. And I said, listen, I can't compete with that. I just like folded like a cheap suit. It's like, oh my gosh, you put that on me. You got to be kidding me. But it was true, because then I watched the podcast.
Did you watch it? Okay.
Did,
yeah. It's one of those things. It's funny because I gifted it to my mom. It was one of those things I was trying to think at Christmas time, and there's like the gift things you give. And I was trying to think of what can I give my mom as something like unique and different. And people had asked me, I did the 100th episode and I had my brother on. And so people were asking me, what are you going to do for the 200th episode? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know when it was, which is how I booked you on. I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah.
And so then I gifted it to my mom, and then as I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
It's that week.
Yeah. Gee, thanks. Yeah. that was fun.
It,
It was kind of like, should I hold him hostage or what? No, that
and
was
I super appreciate the flexibility
no, no,
because,
no trouble at all. I
and
feel
then,
very privileged to be invited and talk with you. So
well, and this is again, I'm now so super excited for all the guests that get to come through here because it's
yeah,
just kind of a different experience,
yeah,
and I get to show off kind of my own thing. Where I was excited before because it was a level of professionalism,
mm-hmm,
and stepping up my podcast from the GoPro days,
mm-hmm.
sitting at my co-working space. But this is
Right.
just a whole new level that I'm excited about.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Good.
So,
Good.
so tell me about you.
Oh my gosh, where to start? Well, I think from us being kind of running in the same circles, right? When I first became aware of you through LinkedIn, I said, "Oh, Jason does kind of the same kind of stuff I do." And, long history of sales leadership and excellence in sales leadership. And you're doing all kinds of cool stuff. And I thought, man, I need to know this guy, right? So when I reached out and we had our one-on-one, just love the energy, it's just
Appreciate it.
like, this is like brethren, right away. I felt like we clicked and kind of speak the same language because of the long history working in sales leadership. And
Yep.
then I was watching all the cool stuff you were doing, stuff I'm not brave enough to do. And you're getting out there doing the stuff and evolving and taking on new things and the podcast and all these other things. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to getting to know you and watch the stuff that you're doing. Like I said, some of the stuff is like, gosh, I wish I would have thought of that kind of stuff. Right.
Well, I appreciate that because I've definitely had so many moments where I've watched other people and said,
Right.
"Man, wish I thought of
Right.
that," or "I wish I could do that." And
Right.
so,
Right.
that was one of my biggest whys when in starting my business. To take a couple steps back, a big why that drove me, listening to my mom's episode was being able to create the life and childhood for my family that I didn't have growing up. And so I wanted to give my family the stability and the house and the cars and the vacations and those things. And I got that. But then when you get to that level, and it's hard to walk away from a job when it's giving you that thing that's driving your why, and to start something, even though I kept having this pull, even though like I would go through these cycles where I didn't want to go to work because I was having this pull and this vision and this like voice that's telling me there was more, there was more, there was more. I was scared to make that jump.
Yeah.
And as I started my business, it was like started like getting aware of like, okay, this was what was driving me. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I put all of this at risk. What is my driver and what is my why? Because it's going to be very easy to turn back and quit. And I looked at it, and for years I've always been the energy person. I've always been the inspirer. I've always been the person that's like pushed people out of their comfort zone. And it was like, you can live your dream if you get out of that comfort zone and you change your beliefs, like, and we go take action. You can live the life of your dreams. There's nothing you can't accomplish.
So you did that in the mirror.
And
And then right?
right, but then and then literally, and then my thoughts in my head were like, and then I'll just sacrifice and I'll stay here at this job forever because and I'll make sure my son, he can go out and he can live his dreams, and I'll preach to him that he can go do anything that he wants. But like, I'm scared because if I go do this thing, what if I fall on my face, or who really wants to hear all the imposter syndrome that when you're in a leadership position, especially, people don't think that you're going through those same thoughts. They don't see
You
that.
get good at hiding it.
You get very good at hiding it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't leave that comfort zone. I was kind of the imposter because I was sitting there preaching to other people they could do it. But then I'm not going to go do it myself. I'm going to go live, my boss's dream of making her company successful, know. And that was a great dream for me for a while. It was a big accomplishment, and but there was that point where it was stagnant. So just going out there and then starting it, it was scary, but it was all worth it.
Yeah, I had a couple of turning points like that in my background too. Started out, believe it or not, as a engineer. So I have an electrical engineering degree that I hardly ever used. Spent 6 years practicing as an engineer, and the first put myself out there and take a chance and take a risk. One of the things I recognized was, and I look back on it now, and it's like I wish I would have recognized as I was going through it how fortunate I was to have the encouragement and the mentorship from the people that were around me. There are some people who are no longer around, and I wish I could just say, gosh,
Yeah.
what you did for me was literally was life changing. At the moment, it was blind panic, right? Because as you're pointing out, the values of being a provider and being a father and a husband and all those things, and at a certain point, you think, well, the risk is not just going to impact me. When I take a risk, it's going to impact me and my 4 kids, and
Yep.
and their future. So it starts to get weighted down, and then you have somebody that says, I really think you should. So at the time I was working engineer, and I was managing a team of people that were doing test work, physical testing work for General Motors. So it was a supplier company, and I was running a small group that was doing measurement work. So the idea is that you have a vehicle running around the proving ground, and you measure all the forces and stresses and everything on the components of the vehicle. And you reproduce that in a lab environment so that it's repeatable and controllable, all these things. So I was working with the team that was doing the measurement work and reducing the data to only the damaging parts to reproduce on the physical testing system. And so I was, gosh, that I'm good at this. I've got, I'm a manager. I'm getting a lot of kudos. Everything's going really well. I'm feeling like, at the
Feeling good.
time, right?
Yeah.
And the guy I was working for said one day, he said, you really ought to go out and visit George. So George was a very important customer. He ran a lab for GM at the proving ground, and his team was doing similar measurement work. And what he was doing is outsourcing some of the data processing to my team. And he says, George is a really good customer. And what I didn't know at the time is the two of them had a really close relationship, and they were Scotch lovers together and these kind of things, right? I didn't learn that till later, but he encouraged me to go visit customers. And I got a taste of that. And it was like, this is great. I can, head out, get everybody situated and head out about 10 o'clock and go see what's going on with the customers and make sure they're happy and all these things. If that was like, wow, this is a little bit of freedom, time freedom, and something different. And I just got hooked on this different thing, different every day, so I kind of thrived on that. And I learned something very important at that time about eventually becoming a professional salesperson way back then, which was the motivation. So, a real quick story. So, George was providing these tapes to us, and we were processing these tapes. Not to get into any technical detail, but the tape could hold like roughly 45 minutes worth of recordings. And I started noticing some of these had like 6 or 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So I went and talked to George, and I said, "Gosh," and we had a pricing approach that was so many dollars per tape. And I said, my engineering brain said, well, gosh, I'm charging you, $40 or $50, whatever it was per tape, and you're not using up all the tape. And he's like, yep.
Yep.
Okay, what am I missing? Right. So this went on for a while, and finally my boss said, okay, here's the deal. George has a goal to have his own group that does that work under his management, and he's using our services to build the ROI for him having a. So that was not like anything close to what I thought it was. And so it taught me, ask more questions,
Yeah.
look deeper, right? So that was one of the beginning parts of, okay, I'm totally disoriented because I thought I was supposed to be doing was this because they needed the work done, and actually I'm doing this because he wants to justify spending money on this. So one of those lessons, right? It was
Yeah.
before I had any formal sales training, so I didn't know what it meant at the time, but because I experienced that when I did go to formal training, like dig deeper, ask more questions, find out what the motivation is, what are the hidden agendas, what are right.
It's so funny at boot camp this morning. It's like I have a new boot camper in, and she just started in IT sales, and she came from she was a teacher, and she taught sales and marketing. And she was
As a
like,
teacher.
as a
Okay.
teacher, and she thought I was gonna. She's like, I thought I was gonna kill it. I thought I was gonna come in and I just was gonna really do well. And she was like, what I found is that this is far different.
Yeah.
The real world is far different than what I was teaching in these classes.
Applying the skills
Applying the
are a whole
skills.
different ball game than learning the skills.
Well, because it comes down to you can know the stuff. You can read in the books. You can, you could recite all the stuff. You can't account for the emotions in the
Right.
mindset and the
Yeah.
belief system that
Yeah.
goes into making these calls, to knocking on a door, to walking into a building that has a no soliciting
Yeah.
sign,
Yeah.
to making a call to somebody that's not being very nice to you. How
Yeah.
do you
That's a big
mentally
one, right?
adjust to that,
Yeah.
prepare for that?
Yeah. 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 As a new person, yeah, you get slapped in the face a couple of times.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
So to finish the story, now this mentor of mine says, I see you're enjoying this and you're starting to get it, right? So there was a company in Minnesota, MTS Systems Corporation, that sold test equipment to our lab and to other labs, and I knew of them, and I was a customer of theirs when I was working in this environment. And he said they have a professional sales organization. So if you want to do this for your career, you need to go work for them. And I said, okay, in principle, sounds right. And I just thought that was one of the scary things. It's like, I'm going to go interview and they're going to look at me and say, you got to be kidding me. You're an engineer. You really expect us to take a risk for you, right?
Yeah.
And I was blown away. They brought me in, took me under their wing. I had literally, I think I mentioned this to you at lunch the other day. We had literally all the characters from Glengarry Glen Ross in the room, and it was one of those. You have a cube and a low wall, and you can hear everybody else on the phone.
Yeah.
And I was literally absorbing. I could hear the guy next to me and the guy behind me, and I'm literally learning by osmosis, right?
Yep.
And at the same time, I am scared out of my mind because I'm in a blind panic because, and you mentioned this a minute ago, what was in my mind is if I fail here, I can always go back and be a lab manager somewhere. That was a detriment. Didn't realize it at the time, but that was bad that I was harboring those thoughts.
Yep.
In any case, they were very good and very nurturing about this. And one of my most vivid experiences is with one of the guys, very senior guy. Well, he was top sales guy in the whole company for years, and he was two cubes over. And he was one of these guys. He never turned in an expense report. I heard my boss said, "Look, this can't go on." Right? He had 2 years worth of expense reports, and he took this box of receipts. And finally, the manager of the office said, "Just give it to there was an assistant there. Just give it to the assistant. She can sort it out." My gosh, she took like a month to sort it all out. So this guy, I'm watching what he's doing, right? And it was like, okay, if I can do what his name's Gail, if I could do what Gail does, I'll make it, right? He was high, high degree of capability, really sure of himself. I mean, he just got stuff done, right? He was that kind of a sales guy, top sales guy in the company. So as I was in my blind panic phase still, I would try to have a conversation with him here and there, and he just was like ignoring me. And I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on because Kevin over here and Rick over there, these guys are being nice to me. And he's like, so what's going on, right? Fast forward a couple of years, well, about a year and a half, year and a half. Gail says, what are you doing for lunch? Let's go out and have a burger. So we did. And this went on for a little while. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, what's going on? Was he like, was I mean to him, or what was behind? I was trying to figure out what was behind all that. So at lunch one day, I said, Gail, I have to talk to you about this because I'm very confused about it. And so the whole first year I was here in this office, you wouldn't even speak to me.
Yeah.
And now we're having lunch together and you're helping me and talking me through things and mentoring me and teaching me, right? And he said, well, Glenn, when you first came here, you you were so bad. You had no clue what you were doing. And I said, yeah, I admitted.
True story.
Yeah. You had no clue what you're doing. And he said, anything I would have been able to share with you, you would not even have understood what I was talking about. And it was an emotional thing for me because it's like, well, it's not because he hated me or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. It was because he recognized that his contribution to my development and success was going to be wasted until I got to a certain level and started to understand what I was doing. So that was a real wake up call about and we maybe can touch on this a little bit more later, but he was a conscious competent. So he was really good, top of his game, and he knew why he was successful. And so an unconscious competent, so somebody that's really good at what they're doing but doesn't really know exactly why they're successful, probably would have tried to help me. And it probably would have been like a pretty unhappy experience for both of us.
Both, yep.
But he is a conscious competent and just said, I'm going to let you do what you need to do to get out of your blind panic phase and start to understand how this stuff works. And then I'll help you out. So, and that was one of those, that period of time was like, sometimes I think about my formative years, and now I realize that, formative years are your whole life. But, I mean, really.
That's so true.
Right?
You're right. Yeah.
So, but
when are we done learning?
Never. But that was one of those periods in my life where I just was like, at the time I had no clue, from the time I was encouraged to go work for that company and become a commissioned salesperson, and blind panic until I got my first significant commission check. Then it was like, this is a path now for me. So by the time I did, and that took a lot of time. My journey was painful. I was scared to death half the time. But that taught me something about, paying attention and being deliberate and being intentional about how you work with others when you realize they need help, you realize how you can help them and what that looks like. So yeah, that was a turning point for me.
When did it start clicking for you? When did it, like they say in like sports, it starts slowing down, the game starts slowing down?
Do you mean feeling like, okay, I got this now?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think it was probably a couple of years into the experience after that first one, because the environment, I didn't realize how well developed that whole they were a professional sales organization. The guy that recommended that I go work for them knew this, had worked with them long enough to understand that. And they had, it's a technical product, and they had this whole structure where the salesperson is the primary relationship owner with the account, and you have subject matter experts, application engineers, support people that and you're taught the rules of engagement and how to bring those resources into the sales deal. And that's another thing. I was blessed to grow up in that. And then when I went to another company, they didn't have that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, "Oh, okay, now I see that and I never make the mistake that it's like, I totally got it. That I know now, especially going off on my own as a solopreneur 6.5 years ago, forget it. You're
Yeah,
not gonna ever
get it all.
completely
Yeah.
get it.
Yep.
But that's when it clicked. Is I said, okay, I understand more than I realized that I understand, and I brought something to that next organization that came through the experience, and I also had some formal training. I did and I don't even know if this exists anymore. Was Principles of Professional Selling. It was originally an IBM. Back in the day, it was IBM and Konica and those maybe it wasn't Konica, but some of these companies had invested tens of millions of dollars into their training, formal training for their salespeople, and came from one of those programs, and had a really good trainer, kept me engaged. So that combination led me to going to a company that was not as well formed, and that's when I felt like, okay, I'm getting it right.
I love that because that's the fun stuff. Sometimes you don't realize how much you get it until you're put in a situation and you realize how much you know. And that was the thing for me too, from a leadership standpoint of going from a company where I had one location, I was managing one location, to a different company and having multiple locations, but they're walking in and seeing the gaps in the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I thought was so easy. It was just, just the way that we did things.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to, it's so much fun when you can go in and plug in. I think that was the thing that got me really excited about consulting and
Mm-hmm.
coaching, is like being able to help people find those blind spots really quickly,
Yep. Yeah.
being able to take young Glenn and seeing
Yeah.
like, okay, where
Right.
are your gaps? Let's help you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that turns out to be one of the things I'm most passionate about. And um, one of the things I recognized is the need to help young salespeople, or salespeople that are just getting into the stage where they are a professional salesperson, is to get out of the mindset of, because 25 years ago, sales was viewed as separating people from their money. Right?
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
heard
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
terminology before, right? So now, probably 5 or 6 or 8 years ago, I recognized that the mindset has to be, you have to move your mindset from, okay, I have something of value and I'm going to exchange that for money, and get out of that mindset and go into the mindset of, I'm here to solve a problem. I'm
Yeah.
here to help solve a problem, right?
Yep.
And knowing that there will be a certain percentage of the time where it's not you that can solve it. And you have somebody, you have the resource, you have a way to connect that person who has the problem that you can't solve, but somebody that can solve it. And then go forward to, some of the most powerful stories I've heard is a sales guy pick up the phone, in the meeting, and say, that's not me. I can't solve that, but we're going to call Joe and I'm going to put him on speakerphone right now and connect with it and have the conversation. It's like, you know what? That person, anytime they have a problem, they're going to call you first. You have now achieved a trusted advisor in their mind, and that is a that's going to be a lifetime relationship with that person, right? And that's, I mean, that's really powerful. So once a salesperson can achieve that mindset shift, you bring a different energy into the conversation, right? You completely
Absolutely.
avoid the seeming to be, you won't, you'll avoid the mistake of seeming to be pushy or or desperate, or or talking about money even. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to be comfortable talking about money, but when you're doing the detailed discovery and teasing out what is really going on and how can I help, the how can I help has to extend to things that you don't directly or you cannot directly bring to the table. And when I see a salesperson achieve that shift in mindset, then sales becomes, and then it's not work, right?
Absolutely.
Not work anymore. And then that's when you really start to thrive and get on a good tact with your career.
5,000% is it's so huge.
It's a tough transition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
It's
if you can't, if you have to pass, so in the old way of thinking, if I have to hand this deal off to somebody else, I mean, I need I need a deal,
yeah. I need something out of it, right?
right?
What are you going to give me out of this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as soon as your brain goes there, then your energy shifts, and then you're not serving the customer, not serving the prospect anymore. So
It's funny.
it's,
We're hitting on so many things we talked at boot camp today. I was like,
oh really?
because because specifically, like, we can't operate the best when we're in scarcity mindset. When we're like, I've got to take all this business because I need the money. This is my only lead. I've got to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and when we can, like you said, open it up and we're truly serving people. Because that's how I look at sales too, and this is
Yep.
where we really align.
Yeah.
Is sales
Yeah.
to me is serving
Really
people at the
clear.
highest level, and there are
Yeah.
people that we cannot help.
Yes.
And if we have a Rolodex, we'll kick back the word Rolodex for
You're
and
right.
Gen Z won't know what we're
Right.
talking about
Right.
right now.
Right.
So we'll kick through the Rolodex of the people and the connections that you have and the relationships that you've built. And that's what's so fun to me is I've met other people that do similar things to what we do,
Mm-hmm.
sales coaching and
Yep.
consulting,
Yep.
that are more territorial and won't meet, and they have that scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
where I've built some phenomenal relationships with other people, and we've been able to pass relationships back and forth.
Yep.
But then going back to the client, or you dominate that space
Mm-hmm.
when you can show them and give them a solution and you're completely ethical.
Mm-hmm.
They will always think of you. When
Mm-hmm.
that person was a great fit for them, they'll always remember you.
Always remember you. They'll call you first when they have a problem. They'll call you first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then there will be times when you can help them. I remember an experience. I was a national sales manager for a company, and I had a indirect channel partner out on the West Coast, and it was a rep company, industrial rep company type of a structure, right? And the person that was on my team was the second generation. So his father had started the company, and then and his name's Trevor. So Trevor became the owner of the company and kept it going. And I went out and visited Trevor, and was he could walk in, knew the guard at Boeing, and I had the wherewithal to ask him, so what is that about? How did you do that? And he said, well, first of all, my dad taught me that. And exactly what we just are talking about is exactly what he said to me. He said, they see me coming, they see me walking down the hall, and they think I have a problem, and I'm going to talk to Trevor about it. Not, does Trevor carry this product in his line? Not, but I have a problem. I need to talk to Trevor,
Yep.
right? And he said, this is it. This is the way you, and he had that whole region locked up. And he said, whenever there's any money, he says, Glenn, you wouldn't believe it. Once in a while, I'll get a telephone call in like middle of November, something like that. Hey, Trevor, I got $50,000. I have to use it up. What do you have? What, give me some ideas. It's like, dude,
he doesn't even have to make the calls. They're calling him.
They're calling him. So I was bowing, bowing down to Trevor but that was the fundamental thing that he learned from his father and carried it on. So I just help, right? Be abundance minded. Help first and do the stuff, right? Make sure that the problem gets solved.
So
you have
true.
to do the stuff, right?
So make that connection,
Yes.
do those things. And I something that I became kind of obsessed with early on in my career, and was always my goal, is to be the guy for somebody. Like I've observed in our small community, everybody had a person, whether it was the car guy, the hair guy, everybody had a person in my family. Or I'd see people that'd be like, they'd hear somebody say, "Oh, I need to get my car fixed. Oh, you need to see my guy. He hooks me up. He takes care of me."
Exactly.
And that was like, oh, I want to be that person, not necessarily the one that just hooks you up, but that takes care of you. And to me, that's really truly hooking you up, is like listening, pointing out the problems, and then if it's not you, let me, this is not me, but I do have a friend over here and he can take care of you. And again, it opens up so many doors.
And it demonstrates that you are truly concerned about their well-being.
Absolutely.
Right. And and again, it's a different energy, right? And though, in my old age, these things become more clear to me. It's about, you walk in and you need that deal, you're in trouble before you even open your mouth, right?
Absolutely.
You have to walk in with the energy that I'm here to help. Whatever the problem is, just share with me, right? And, and all the stuff about earning the trust and earning the right to dig into the details. That's all stuff, that can be trained and taught and coached and role played. But if you fail to bring the energy into the room, it will be, they smell it. They'll smell it on you, and you won't be able to get rid of it. It'll be, it's a thing, right?
It's going back to the belief level, and having the belief. I say the biggest sale you can ever do is selling yourself. You have to believe that you are the solution, and you have to believe that you can solve the problems, whether it's hooking somebody else up or not.
Yes.
If you don't believe that, it doesn't matter how good your product or service is.
That's right.
Because if you don't believe that it's going to solve the problem, like you're going to go out there and you're not going to have that energy.
Yes.
You're not going to really understand it.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, that's it. And then so when I'm working with salespeople and getting them in that, to start to understand that and help them demonstrate it and role play it. And so how did that feel? Right. Right. And it can be emotional at times. Like they'll come back and say, I don't understand how that works. It's like, well, it's because you demonstrated, not told them you care about them. You demonstrated it, that you care about them, and that's the key. Yeah,
it's such the key, because everybody, I think for the most part, the majority of people understand that what good customer service is like, or they say that they understand that taking care of your clients is the way to be. But so many people talk the talk, and so few actually do it. They actually follow through. And even listening and asking questions.
Yes.
To me, as I don't know if this is a true stat or not, but I feel like 90% of sales is done from close-ended questions. Getting yes nos. Yeah, I've seen it so much, like so many salespeople asking yes no questions and then not understanding why they're getting hung up on, or why they don't have anything to stick. Why, when somebody gives them that objection at the end, why they can't overcome it.
Yeah.
And it was like, what was their motivator? Why are they there? What's going to happen if they don't do this?
Yeah.
What were their thoughts going through the process? Like, if you don't understand any of that stuff, you need to go back and have a conversation. I can't help you overcome an objection that you don't understand.
That's for sure. Yeah. 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 That's definitely, and it's definitely an acquired skill too.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So if you find somebody and people's general impression of a natural salesperson, gregarious, fun loving,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And there are those that turn that skill into an asset, and some that just fall flat, right? Because they're, as you say, they're not asking the open ended questions. They're not really probing. And one of the things that I struggle with is when I hear something that I can solve, I go too quickly to
Ooh.
the, well, let me tell, because I love this. I love this stuff. I mean,
Yep.
you can tell I'm really passionate about this, and I love the profession, right? Like, wow, that's something I saw before. I can, wrong, hit the
File it
brake,
away.
hit
Write
the
a
brake,
note.
hit the brakes,
Yep.
right? Make the note.
Yep.
We'll come back to it,
We'll come back to this.
but let's keep going. What else?
Yep.
What else is happening? What have you tried? What else? What's going on that you would like to change, and how long has it been going on, and how does it impact your revenue and your profit? And just keep, right.
Can we dissect
You
that a little
have
bit?
to.
Because why?
Yeah.
What do people do at the very beginning? What are they giving you?
How do you mean?
So when they're telling you, like I've watched this happen all the time, and I've done it, but so many
Mm-hmm.
times where somebody gives you something and you
Mm-hmm.
want to solve it, and you start going into solve mode,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving the solution.
Mm-hmm.
One, you're running they're running the conversation.
Yeah.
You're like you're it's like someone poking a hole in boats, and you're like trying to fill all the holes,
Yep.
and so you're running everywhere from the boat, putting
Yeah.
putting things in the holes to fill them up.
Yeah.
But to me, that when they're coming to you, the
Mm-hmm.
client often doesn't understand the solution to the problem. They don't understand the cause of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They're on this surface level.
Right.
And so they start telling you the surface level problem, and then you're solving it. You're chasing to solve it,
Yes.
and you haven't got deep enough yet.
Right.
If once you start to uncover things, oftentimes you can find like the nail that they're sitting on.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
And you can remove that nail, and it solves like 10 of those problems.
Yes. Yep.
Versus the one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when you can point to a client, hey, listen, I see this clear picture of where we can help you with this, 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 and this is what we would do.
Yes.
Versus let's solve every problem, one at a
Right.
time.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And the skill about doing detailed discovery, and I make mistakes
Oh, you
still
would
to
all do.
this
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
because I get excited and I want to help, right?
Yep.
That's okay. Let me add it. Let me add that problem. I can fix that problem. So it's the what I always do to just kind of pump the brakes is to remind myself, in a lot of cases we're solving the I don't know what I don't know problem. Right? So when you see the surface level, because we've seen it 100 times. So we know the levels, and because we peeled back the onion before.
Yeah.
The skill is having them peel back the onion through you asking the right questions. So it's guiding them through to partially solve the I don't know what I don't know problem. That, to me, that's usually the crux of it, is that I start talking about a solution, and unfortunately I confuse the heck out of them, right? Because I start talking and sometimes using terminology that they're not accustomed to hearing.
Yep.
And I'm going through the levels without first having peeled back the onion so that they can see the levels, right?
Yep.
That's where it just completely goes off the rails. It's like they clam up and they go away, and you never talk to them again. It's like, my gosh, that guy overwhelmed me and confused the heck out of me.
And I love this conversation, because it's like, for the people listening that really, like it's like the stories are data of the soul, and you can listen through this, you can start to see the awareness, that as you start to peel back that onion, man, I lost my thing. Dang it. What was your point?
about them, about having them see the layers by asking them questions, like guiding them through the sort of like, this is what you need to know about these layers, but not by telling them, by asking them,
Yep.
so that they're kind of guiding the thread of thought instead of you sending them off into a, you know, because you know this from just from general interacting with people skill level. It's like when if you say something that's confusing to them, the only thing that they're going to be thinking about is that thing that
That
you
thing.
said that confused the heck out of them. They're not going to hear anything more.
Yes.
So now you're like you're pouring water into a full water glass, right? And you're probably, some people, you're going to frustrate them to the point where they're just like, okay, stop. I don't I don't need you after
I
all.
don't need you.
Just
And that's what it was, and I appreciate you bringing that back because it's the symptoms and the things that people are like, oh, I don't understand. Like they said they had to think about it, and they never called me back. They seemed really interested, and all of a sudden they left and had to think about it. And they're going to come back. They said they're going to come back.
no,
No, they're not coming back. They're not thinking about it. They didn't
no,
go home and powwow. They didn't
right.
tell their friends. No, you confused them,
Yes,
or you
right.
bored them, or
Yes,
something happened where they just lost interest. They still have that need,
right,
and they're probably going to go buy it somewhere else or go shopping somewhere else, or they're
right,
going to put it off for a while, but then they're going to circle back. It's not going to be with you.
right. Or worse, they're going to put up with it. They're
Put
going
up
to
with it.
continue to stay in pain.
Yep.
So yeah,
And
yeah,
so I've had situations, and this is really daring, but it's like when somebody has told me, "Oh, I have to think about it," I'll be like, "When you came in here, you were talking about how you were going to throw that thing through the window because it was frustrating you so
yeah,
much. I'd hate to see you get arrested for
right,
throwing that through the window."
right,
So let's look at this. Where did I steer you wrong?
right.
What do I need to clear up? What do
Yeah,
what isn't clear?
yeah,
And then they would
yeah,
I took responsibility for it. There's something
yes,
that I did, and they're like, yeah, I had to these two things. I don't know between the two,
right.
and then I can start asking more questions and get a
Hmm.
better clarity, so I
Hmm.
can point them in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that can happen too, and this has become more and more, I've become more and more sensitized to it recently, is meaning the last 3 or 4 years, working with small medium business owners. In a lot of cases, you need to realize that they love their people.
Mm,
They, it's their family.
yeah.
A lot of them are like this, right? It's their family. So if I'm talking to somebody, like, I'm pretty straightforward. I don't sugarcoat stuff, right? So,
Yep.
and there are cases where it's better for a business owner to work with somebody else that does what I do, because they're gonna be scared from the time that I start talking to their people, that I'm gonna be too blunt, and they're gonna feel like so that's the thing. So the energy level and how, and it's, the fact remains that they're probably lying to themselves a lot of the time, but knowing that doesn't help anybody, honestly. So me having a better idea of, okay, they love their people. So when we start talking about what are we going to do about these problems, factoring that in is a huge, that's a that's a huge thing. And prior to 6.5 years ago, there was no consideration about that, right? I mean, you in corporate environments, like, okay, this is the job description, this is the commission plan, and the corrective actions were totally based on
Just being able to document to fire you.
this. Yeah, it was like, this is the way it is. You missed your, and I worked for software companies that you missed your quota 2 quarters in a row, you were gone.
You're gone.
And there
Yeah.
was no conversation about it.
Yeah.
Everybody knew.
Everybody knew.
So
Yeah.
if if you're going to miss your second quarter in a row, you're looking for another job. There's no, I love you, but you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yep.
in small medium business, is not that way. Small medium business, like, okay, and a lot of times it's having to take also extra time to understand the family connections and so on, right? Because I've found this too, that like I have to think back of some of the things that I said to the owner because he's revealing to me that the sales leader, not the same last name, okay, but he's married to a sister.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay, what did I say yesterday about that?
Oh,
Right,
hilarious. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, and sometimes they don't talk about that until you get to know them better, and so being sensitized about that, being sensitive about that kind of stuff is something that I've learned and that I need to work on too, because it's, I work with some EOS implementers that are more nurturing, and they're like, I don't probably my clients probably are going to be a little bit, probably not going to like you very well. And then others that have said, I want you to work with my clients because this guy over here is too, they don't say it this way, but
Yeah,
too nurturing.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah.
he's not, I'm not sugarcoat. I go into session and I'm not sugarcoating anything, and so I want you to work with them because you're going to be consistent about that, the accountability and the expectations and all these things. So there's all
I
that
want to
fun
frame. I
stuff
frame
too.
that with my clients right out of the
Do you?
gates. I had
Yeah.
a client that hired me. In fact, they just sent their one of their salespeople that was the new person that came to the boot camp this morning, and this was 6 years ago or so. And he had this salesperson that worked on his team. Loved her. She's like family,
Mm-hmm.
like she's going and buying his groceries and taking care of his kids and cleaning the bathroom and doing his admin work and doing everything but selling. Right, everything but selling. But she's been there for 2 years, making a nice salary, has a good commission structure, but has never made commission because she's never sold anything in 24 months of being there. And he's like, he wants to bring me on to train her, to give her an opportunity because he's like, I want to make her a better salesperson. I'm like, that's great. I'll meet her, work with her. We'll get, but I cannot guarantee that
Right.
she is the person.
Right.
She might be a great, nice person,
Right.
but she might not be the right fit. And so, what happens if she's not? Because do you just want to continue paying her because she's a
Right.
nice person,
Right.
and she's
Yeah.
family, or are you really serious about your business?
Yeah.
And he was really serious about his business, and I gave her a shot. I worked with her.
Mm-hmm.
But what I noticed was, we're creatures of habit. Like
Yep.
in
Yep.
salespeople,
Yep.
we're telling our stories and our
Yes.
conquests. Like
Yes.
we're out there,
Yeah.
we're storytellers,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, whether good, bad, or indifferent, oh, people are hanging up on me. Those, these assholes, whatever. Like people are
Yeah.
telling me to get lost. I'm
Yeah.
not having any luck.
Yeah.
You can be telling me a sad story, or you could be telling me like a successful story
Yeah.
of like all these things that are happening. But you're telling me something. She
Right.
was telling me stories about back in the day when she sold, like back in the day when she was doing other jobs. And this was like a few years ago before she took this job. And I'm like, great, what's happening now?
Right. Yeah.
And so come to find out, she had a mom that was sick with cancer, and she was taking care of her mom most of the time, drawing her salary, and then she was justifying that she was taking care of all this stuff on the back end because not that she's a bad person, she
Mm-hmm.
just didn't want to do sales,
Yeah.
and so she would
Yeah.
like let them know that she was having these conversations. I'm like, you know. She was telling me about this one interaction she was having. It was like this big promising meeting she was having. And I'm like, that guy wants to date you, right? Like he's not sitting with you because he wants to do business with you. He's not even talking about business. Like the things you're telling me he's saying are inappropriate. Like, this is not like, are you getting this? Like, this is not like what should be happening. Anyways, he ended up having to fire her, and then we brought on a sales guy that
Mm-hmm.
that tore it up, and he was the right fit, and he did a
Mm-hmm.
good job, and took their company to another level. But coming into it, it's like
Mm-hmm.
this might not be the right person.
Right. Right. Yeah. When I work with a business owner, one of the first things I say to them is, okay, well, I've got some different assessment tools that I can use. One of the things that's the most important thing is their drive or their intrinsic motivation, right? And I try to explain, and it's, unless you really study it and live with it for a while, it is hard to understand that they can have the highest level of skill in the world. If they don't have that intrinsic motivation or that drive, they'll be susceptible. I mean, and they can be, and I've read about this, they can be really good performers for a certain period of time.
Yep.
And then something might happen, like the something you have a sickness in the family, right? Somebody with intrinsic motivation, somebody that has a need to win, right?
Yep.
They will figure out a way to overcome that, right? But to tell you a quick story, because this sticks in my mind about wiring and intrinsic motivation and these kind of things. When I was first joining, 6.5 years ago, when I first joined the Sales Acceleration Advisor organization, the founder was explaining to me about this thing, and it's not specifically intrinsic motivation, but it's a similar thing. It has to do with natural curiosity.
Yeah.
He says, "Okay, so this is the way you figure it out, whether when you're talking to somebody, whether they have this you know drive." And he said, "Okay, two kinds of people. You're in the grocery store walking down the aisle, and you hear uncontrolled laughter in the next aisle. Two kinds of people. One kind of person is going to mind their own business and keep shopping. The other person has to, I mean,
Has to.
physically, they cannot stop themselves. They have to go see what they're laughing at, right? And that sticks in my mind as like, yeah, that's the thing, right? That natural curiosity, the figuring out what's really going on here. And he said that's one of the things that I watch for with sales people and sales leaders is which kind of person are they, and if they're not the second kind of person, absolutely I have to know what they're laughing at, right?
I couldn't walk away. I'd have to know.
Perfect. Well, I would say any salesperson or sales leader, sales executive that answers they're the first kind of person, I wouldn't believe them. I mean, it's one of those. I think it's probably one of those natural laws. I think
You don't even realize it. It's just yeah.
you can't control it. You have to go see what they're laughing at, right?
As soon as you said it, I started laughing. I'm like, there's no way I'm not going around that corner.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I want to tell you a quick. I'll make this a quick story. I was working as national sales manager, and I was coaching a young woman salesperson, very attractive, right? So she's calling on this guy at a company that will remain unnamed. And I noticed that she, got a deal in the pipeline, and my boss said, have you gone out and did you ride with her to that prospect and talk to him? I said, no, I haven't done that yet. You really need to go do that. Okay, I'll go do that. So we went, and I let her set up what was going on and how he was doing and what's going on in the company. And I had a really nice tour and all these things. And I started asking questions about, well, budget and timing and these kind of things. And I noticed it was, bottom line, I knew he wasn't going to buy anything. It's just at a certain point, you just, he couldn't answer questions about a budget. The timing was, I'm not sure. We have to, our budget cycle starts. So I had a post-call conference with her, and I said, this guy's never going to buy anything. I said, that deal you have in the pipeline's not real. And she didn't really react at the time. That afternoon, my boss calls me in his office. She came to me and said, you're ruining her deals. And I said, okay, time out. Let me tell you exactly how this interaction went.
Yeah.
And after I explained it to him, he said, oh, okay, I got it. Carry on. Said, never mind. Because he was getting mad at me because her perspective was that I'm ruining her relationships and, blew her deal. It's like, sorry.
Oh man.
So
you didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah. But I found out, and that's one of the hard things, right? People that need to be coached and won't take coaching and do an end around, and there's a whole thing about that.
Well, that's just huge in itself. And years ago, I had just a couple of years ago, actually, one of my former managers, we were having a conversation, and she was talking about her team and the people around her team. And she was like, oh, I got this new guy. She was like, oh my God, he's so coachable. I love him. And she was like, and then she started laughing, and she was like, funny story. She was like, remember when you first brought me on in you took me to that team leadership thing, and she was like, in the intermissions we had to go up on the board. There was like a, big post-it notes on the wall, and we had to put, for each person had their name on the wall, and we had to put something positive about that person. And I put on her thing coachable, and I was like, yeah, I totally remember that. And she was like, I was so offended. She was like, we were new, like I was just kind of learning you. And she was like, and I was just really naive. And I thought coachable meant that you viewed me as like I had a lot to learn, that I was
Oh,
just like, a rookie, or that, that I was not very knowledgeable. And she was like, now she was like, I have so much appreciation for that word. And I just wanted to
yeah,
stop and say, thank you
yeah,
for
yeah,
seeing that,
yeah, yeah.
because it's so powerful,
It is.
like give me a coachable person with not as much talent over a talented person any day.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Yeah. And they're so much fun to work with,
Oh
right?
my God.
Yeah. You see them, you can watch them progress and
Ugh.
yeah. Yeah. Terrific. Yeah.
This even goes like I coached my son's basketball teams, growing up or as he grew up, and there was this kid. Like I always loved the kids that like just had the
Hmm.
work ethic. And there was this
Hmm.
kid, his name's Aiden, and he was like the short kid. And I remember like I saw the roster of kids that were trying out for the
Hmm.
team, and my son had said, "Oh, he sucks. He got cut from the school team, right?" And I'm like, okay, whatever. Listen to I like what he's giving me his
Hmm.
opinions and everybody. And then I show up in this, and I'm watching this kid that I knew my son said sucks, and I'm watching this kid, and he's making his shots, and he's got a good form, and he's just putting 150% work ethic into it, and I'm like, what's up with this kid? And I was like, hey man, how's it going? I was like, looks like you're looking pretty good. I like that shot. He was like, yeah. He was like, I got cut from the seventh grade team, and he was like, I was pretty devastated. He was like, so my mom got me a shooting coach, and he was like, I've been working with a coach every day after school. He was like, I just really want to make this team.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Wow.
the
Yeah.
kid made the team. He was one of my
Yeah.
favorite kids ever.
Yeah.
He would just, he did not have the talent that everybody else had, but he
Hmm.
would go out there and give whatever he had, 150%. And he was just a joy and fun to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes it so fulfilling for you, right?
Ah, so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I coached my daughter's softball and then it was one of those, right? Come and help. And then you're the head coach for like
And then
three
you're the
different
head coach.
teams. But I did have an experience with, and she was, so the age group I think was like 7 to 9 or something like that. So there was a huge span between the tallest girl and the shortest girl, and then their physical development, right, and their abilities.
Yep.
And there was one, and her this girl's mother showed up to every practice and every game, and she struggled. She was real small. She was smaller, and she really struggled. And it was like, what was heartwarming to me is that I didn't have any kids complaining, right?
Yep.
Like, give her a minute. And over a couple of years, she improved. But that part about having a commitment to have them participate, have them help when you see that they're making the effort and you see that they have support from their family, right? That's a big thing. That's you just can't deny that, right?
It's huge. I'll take that hard work and that coachability
Yeah,
over talent any
for
day, like
sure.
I said. And
Yeah,
those are just fun people to work with, and it's
yeah,
not just the fun athlete stuff. I
right.
love coaching kids, but from that adult standpoint,
Yeah,
just being able to work with the people that
yeah,
they will put the effort and the energy in. Those are my people.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
it's because it's just really what it takes is taking the action. Like you can read books all day, you can learn stuff all day, but you're not going to truly learn until you go put yourself in the fire.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, and
You're just going back to your mentor.
yeah,
Like
and being brave.
he,
Yeah,
you're, he or what was the sales guy's name that
Gail.
Gail.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, Gail.
yeah.
Going back, he wouldn't talk to you until you got to this point because you would have never have got it.
Right.
You have to go through those struggles and
Yeah,
take action and learn and fall on your face. And then when he
yeah,
starts, when as soon as you get to that other side, when he starts, it's going to start making sense for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
But you got to go through it.
yeah. And it is interesting because I remember him telling me, he says, I looked at what you were doing, and he said, I, I thought to myself, he's not going to make it. And I knew him well enough by that time. I said, that's a terrible thing to think about me.
Terrible.
He said, I can't help it. You were terrible. You didn't know what you were doing. You didn't get it. You're a moron. You wouldn't even believe it. Gosh, thanks, Gail. But it was all good because of the kind of person he was, a very giving person and very, very highly skilled. I remember him talking about there was a Ford executive, and he had to. Was a guy in a signing in the approval list for $2.5 million, and this was 82, something like that. $2.5 million test system, right? So that was a big outlay for test equipment, right? And he told me the story. Not too many people knew about it, but he told me the story, and he literally staked out the guy. he asked he asked some of the guys that worked for him, so what door does he come in? And what time does he come in? What days does he come into the office and what time and all these things? And he admitted to me, he said, a couple of times I missed him, but then there was one time I saw him pull up and I got out of the car and and so I could come in the door at the same time he did. And I introduced myself and, oh, who are you? Oh, this is the test lab. This is, he started the thing. Within 6 months or something like that, he was signing a $2.5 million test system deal for him. So he knew what the heck he was doing.
It's being that intentional, and it's that work ethic and that grit, and you got to put yourself out there.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, so let's fast forward to starting your business, and how are you helping people now?
So my journey, at a certain point, I was not feeling like I was being successful at moving the needle in my corporate roles. And it was just, I recognized a pattern. I always tell business owners, I'm sure you looked at my LinkedIn profile, and I'm sure you can see that salespeople change jobs a lot, but I'm sure that you looked at my LinkedIn profile and thought, this guy can't keep a job, right? What I recognized after a while, what was happening is that I'm wired as a fixer and a builder. And so when I got into a role, I would get everything squared away, get the right people doing the right things and the sales process, and get everybody's using the CRM properly. We've got good opportunity management practices, these kind of things. And once it's running, like, now what? And I would get bored, and then you start to get lazy, and it's like, okay, I don't want to do this. So I would move. So looking back on my career, I can see many times where that happened. And at a certain point, it was like, I can't keep doing this with, you get to a certain age and people don't hire you anymore when you're past a certain age, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I had thought about going out on my own years before, but the fear thing again, right? I had my engineering brain kicked in and said, well, Glenn, you're going to have to spend a year or 18 months developing IP, and you're going to, then you need to learn how to find the right customers and develop your offering and all these things. And I just was scared to do it. I was scared to do it. So when I stumbled upon sales acceleration, that gave me an on-ramp. That was like, okay, there's a repository of IP and materials that I can use, and I can bootstrap, and they, bootstrapped me in a sense up to how to sell within, because we are both in a referral business, right?
Yep.
We get almost all of our opportunities come from referrals. So learning how to be a good referral partner and being a giver within the referral community, and being connected to the EOS ecosystem, that brought me along, right? So it reduced the risk. So from, my engineering brain again, reduce the risk, reduce the chance of failing. And so I jumped into it, and it was scary. I had to learn a bunch of new skills. I had community. right? So that's
That's nice.
helpful too.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
since then, I've built my own community, and I'm very steeped in. I mean, I work in the EOS ecosystem. Been working in the EOS ecosystem now for years, and I love that community. That these are people who get it, and they're all abundance mentality. They're all help first. They're all wonderful people, right? And the business owners that bring them in get huge benefit from working with them. So that feeds me, right? That feeds my need to help. Is that I see the people that I associate with and the people I spend time with also helping, and so you need to get momentum, and it took me a little bit to do that, and now I just feel like this is what I was built to do. I just feel like when I work with a business owner and I can help them, to help them get out of the I don't know what I don't know, help them to understand how all of this, how the business development, sales leadership is supposed to work. Interview. I had a client that I was working with recently, and I did my normal interviewing for. We brought a new seller on board, and I did my normal interviewing thing. And the business owner, who was really great, experienced business owner, pulled me aside. He said, "I would have never thought to ask any of those questions."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? Questions that no one had ever asked her before
Yeah.
about her business and her ideal customer and how she was going to, know, be attractive to the high schools, and how was she going to figure out who the decision makers were in the high school in that environment, all those things. This is normal to me. It was normal.
Yep.
So that was my muscle memory, right? Being applied to someone who who they they felt like they got a huge boost, and it was no effort for me.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just riffing and asking questions. And that was I when I left there, it was like, whoa, that's like, because it was no effort. It was really fun for me to learn about what she was doing, right?
Yeah.
And it helped her. And that was one of the things that really, one of those turning points when you do something scary and you're still thinking, well, if I fail at this, I still have a way I can still do whatever. I've got my safety net. I've got a safety net figured out, which is dangerous too,
Yeah,
right?
for
To
sure. Yep.
even have that thought. But after that experience, I had no concerns or doubts whatsoever after that. I said, if I can do that every day, I won't be working. I'll be helping, and I'll be
Yep.
using what I already know, and I won't be and it's not effort, it's fun, right? Go to work with a client, and they get the benefit of my 35 years of experience, and it's like, wow, this is great. So that's
Well, the really cool thing is, and similar story to me, like we didn't just come in and we weren't just the natural at sales. We didn't just
right,
come in and have the success. We weren't
right,
that 1% of people that just come in and kind of BS their way.
right.
And there are the natural salespeople, and
Yep.
they're kind of the unicorns
Yeah.
and they're usually like, one tablet short of a full medicine
Right.
cabinet.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Sometimes, yeah.
And not only that, people will be like, "What? I want to be like him," and I'm like, yeah, you can't, like there's no way to just
Mhm.
do that. Like he
Right.
can't train it.
Right.
And a lot of times those people are not like Gail. They're unaware,
Right.
they're unaware of what they're doing. They're
Yep.
just kind of going out there and doing it. So like
Yep.
there's those
Yep.
people.
Yep.
And then there's, like we had to really put our work in and try to figure out this
Right.
thing out. It didn't just, and we could have ran at some point because there's a
That's
lot of
right.
people that do.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And avoiding that, but that was, like I said, one of my turning points is that I don't have to look back anymore. And it is fun to take home a big commission check, right? You,
Absolutely.
you win in so many ways. You win, just mid-level manager at GM. He won because he's getting a new test system, and he's going to be the talk of the whole organization because he's got this thing, right, that he can use to make his job better. And I win because I got the deal,
Yep.
right? And I win again because I got to take home my money, and I win again because my wife says, "Holy, holy cow! I guess, I guess I shouldn't have worried about you being able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's definitely a thing. And I know that's a thing for a lot of younger salespeople that are raising families,
Yep.
right? That's one of those
Hmm.
outside influences that
Yep.
can be very difficult to navigate.
Well, it's so difficult, and you've talked about like the safety nets and the things like that, and the reason why that's a trap is because it sets you up for failure
Yeah,
mentally.
it does.
And when I'd interview people and they'd ask me, "Can you really make money here?" Like, nope, not like that. Because every through the experience of the years, the people that always ask those questions were the ones that would always fail because
Yeah.
they would always like the mind is an excellent servant, terrible master.
Yep.
And depending on how we view the world,
Mhm.
we will go and seek the information that we're looking for.
Mhm.
And so if you view the world from a skeptic that I
Mhm.
can't make money here,
Mhm.
you're gonna go and every single time I
Yeah.
watched it
It's
happen.
without fail.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't go and build relationships with the best salespeople. They'd build relationships with the people at the bottom of the totem pole because they were simple and easy conversations and they thought alike.
Yeah.
And so they'd ask those people that sucked, like, do you like it here? Do you make a lot of money? And they're like, no, I suck. And they're like, oh man, nobody can make money here. Like
Yep.
they help make their decision,
Yeah.
a little more complex than that. But
Yeah.
they would never go and spend and put their time around the people that were having success.
Yeah.
They're just like a tuning fork.
Yeah.
They were vibrating and attracting to the lower quality people. So when they'd ask the question, can we really make money here? No.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's
But
right.
the
Yeah.
people that can do.
That's right. That's right.
you know.
Yeah. 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 I had an experience, and it was definitely a learning experience. I was working with a client, and we were hiring a salesperson. It was kind of a tricky position, tricky role, and I got into a situation where I firmly believed, to my detriment, that this was the right person. And I didn't realize it until I got pretty far way through what was happening. What the indication was, he wanted to understand exactly the not just the structure of the commission plan, but the how would it look? What does it look like exactly? How many deals of what size and all these things and what's in the pipeline already? And it wasn't just like a 15-minute conversation for him to get his arm around it. He was looking for certainty.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, what I should have done is said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and retract the offer
Yep.
and move on.
Yep.
Right.
I've
Because
been there. I've done it
because
though.
I know because that guy didn't succeed.
Yeah.
And thank God that the client was not looking at, and probably should have been looking at me and said, listen, you are accountable for that
Yep.
mistake, and you need to own it. Right. He should have
That
done
is
that.
true.
And he
Leadership
was
is
a
true.
really nice guy, super nice guy. And he didn't do that, but I knew it. I knew it. I knew, I said, I thought to myself, man, about the second phone call, I should have said, this is not the right person.
Yep.
Let's stop talking and retract the offer. So you did it too, really? You did?
Well, it comes down, and like what we talked about earlier, is this
Yeah.
scarcity in the mind is like,
Yeah.
and it can be easy to have abundance over here, but then it depends on what you're struggling at.
Yeah.
It can be hard. You can go through these waves where it's hard to find people, or it feels hard to find people, or a couple people leave at one time, and now
Right.
you're hiring out of desperation because
Yes.
you didn't build up your pipeline. I had to figure out this is like definition of insanity. It keeps on happening to me. I need to keep on interviewing whether I'm hiring or not,
Yes.
because there's always somebody low on the totem pole. There's
Yeah.
always somebody that is on their way out. And then what I found is the people that are that usually leave are not the ones that I'm like Xing out and planning down here, but it's
ones
like
you
the
wanna
best
keep.
person comes to me and is like,
Yeah.
oh, I got this huge offer and
Yeah.
I've got to go.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Yeah.
not but so just always keeping people in the hopper, and
Yes.
it's the same thing with sales.
Yes.
You've got to always be working, always building those relationships. It's
Yeah.
not just about selling, but building relationships, because once you stop that, everything stops. And
Yeah.
now it's that scarcity. It's like
Yeah.
trying to squeeze all the lemon out of one juice.
Yeah. Yeah. And
All the juice out of one lemon.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew what you meant. That's interesting that you should mention that about having. I call it when I'm working with a client. I said we need to build a bench.
Yeah,
right? So you always need to have, so they might have, customer service or something like that where we can, where we, by the way, recognize somebody has talent and we start to work with them. But, and you need to be looking at the on the outside all the time. And that's a mindset issue, right?
absolutely.
Because you're some owners will say, well, that means you expect somebody on my team to fail. And they're like, well, actually, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you should
and you should too if you're a good leader. Yeah,
right. You
yeah.
should be thinking it too. And it's so one, it's easy if it's a bigger team because you say, well, you got 10 people on the team. Are you really in your heart of hearts expecting all 10 of those people to be here in 12 months? Well, no. Well, then we need to be hiring, right? We need to have a recruiting process running in the background all the time.
And if not, and you might make this anyways, but it's the same thing as like when you get so excited that you have a sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start that also the client gets demanding, and you start lowering the price, or extending the payment agreement. Like net 90, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Because of desperation, it's the
Yeah.
same thing that those people will come in and do. And it's like they want to let me look at the thing, and like you're running around jumping through hoops trying to prove to them they can
Yeah.
make money,
Yeah.
when if we stopped and think about it, to
Yeah.
your point, we know right now they can't make money.
That's right. They don't have the intrinsic motivation. That there was one. It was one interview. There was one interview where the guy said it. He said, "I don't care what my target is. I don't care what my variable is. I know I'm going to blow it out of the water, and you guys are going to be fair to me." And I said to the, I didn't do it in front of the guy, of course, but I said to the owner, "That's your guy.
That's your guy right there. That's your guy right there.
I mean, you're running through the assessment and have him talk to other people, but I'm telling you right now, that's the guy."
That's,
So, but it doesn't happen a lot.
yeah.
It
Oh, very
yeah,
rarely do you
yeah,
get that guy walking
yeah,
in. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a
Maybe
mindset. You can totally see it.
maybe once in 35 years I've had
And
that
it's
guy.
fun. It's like
Yeah.
if you truly are you're present and you're listening in conversations, you can hear people's patterns in
Yes.
their
Yeah,
language,
for
and you
sure.
can start to be predictable, especially from a sales standpoint.
Yeah.
Because going back to you're talking about the spouse,
Yeah.
if you don't have a belief, it's really hard.
Yeah.
If you have an inkling of a belief, but your spouse is beating you up at home,
Yeah.
you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
You've got to you got to be like that guy that's like, I'm your guy.
Mhm.
I'm a lion. I'm a
Mhm.
beast. I'm the top salesperson.
Yeah.
I'm your guy. I'm the
Yeah.
difference maker. In order to even overcome a spouse, it's like, is this going to work out?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that person's chirping at you every day. And
Yeah.
if you go and you have a couple bad days in a row being a
Yeah.
new salesperson,
Yeah.
oh my God, that doubt's going to creep in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Same thing as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
guess what? We're all on commission sales.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We have to kill. We eat what we kill.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Hopefully we don't have to kill them. They can just walk right into the door.
Right. Right. But I'm really interested in the coaching, the things that you're doing.
Really? Yeah.
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 So you had a session today to talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So I do these boot camps, and Monday's open for sales professionals and entrepreneurs. So Tuesdays, I do Tuesday afternoons at the Howell Chamber. It's funny. Not the second one is affiliated with the Heartland Chamber or Howell Chamber, in the sense that they have a grant program for entrepreneurs that they can fund these entrepreneurs if they need help going through coaching and training, and don't have the budget for it because they're in their startup phase. The Brighton Chamber is down the street from my house. It's a great, easy location,
Right,
and so not necessarily affiliated with the chamber, but it does drive traffic in their doors, which is nice. But so yeah, it's one of those things, and it's all this stuff that we're talking about. I had the young lady that joined us today. She's new, and her sales managers in Florida, and they're in IT, and he's taught her a lot of IT stuff, but he hasn't. And he told me I haven't had time to go in and dive in and do sales training for her, and she's new to sales, and so she's like, I'm struggling here, and so being able to take her through, okay, you've got this product knowledge, to a standpoint, but what can you do with it?
Right.
You
Right.
know, what does it do? Like,
Hmm.
let's hear some stories. Like, how has it helped your clients?
Yeah.
Like,
What problem does it solve?
what problem does it
Yeah.
solve, and how can we dive in? Let's formulate the questions and understand how to communicate to
Hmm.
people, because you got to get past that surface.
Hmm.
And it's actually easy to get past the surface and cold calls and that kind of thing, because people are used to everybody talking the same.
Hmm.
Hey,
Yep.
just calling real quick.
Yes.
You
Right.
know, like, is the decision maker there? And just you take everybody through the same exact like rigmarole. They can smell
Yeah.
you coming, and most
Yeah.
of the time they're hanging up on you before you get
Yeah.
there. And so boot camp, it's taking people through that training, especially for entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
People start their business, they have a purpose, a passion, or expertise,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they've either never sold or they've never had to sell something that they've had to create. And
Hmm.
so a lot of stuff that happens there, and I look at it from my whole career, I look at three things really: belief system, that whole mindset,
Hmm.
communication, like who are your people? How are you
Hmm.
talking to them? What are
Hmm.
their problems? What are
Hmm.
they, and how do you solve them?
Yeah.
And then, and again, going back into that communication,
Yeah.
and then the process.
Yeah.
Because once you knock down that, and your belief system, once you believe it, and you adjust your mindset, and once
Yeah.
you're going out there and you understand the questions and who your people are and how to
Hmm.
talk to them, you can tie it into that process.
Hmm.
And something that I see happen that most people miss is creating that next step
Yeah.
in a conversation.
Right.
So it's like that
Exactly.
fun stuff that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's that fun stuff that you're pointing out to people. Like, have you, and so what's the next step?
Right. Yep.
When I met with you for lunch last week, I had just met up with the guy, and I went out. This is a little bit different than boot camp. This is what I do for my one-on-one clients, that
Mhm.
I'll take them out and put them into action. Like,
Right.
whether I'll sit down with them while they're
Yeah.
making their
That's.
calls,
Yeah.
or I'll go out with them on a sales day,
Yeah.
because I want to show them, like, let's have fun. Let's
Hmm.
be loose with this.
Hmm.
The problem they're having out of the gates is they're not being human. They're coming in, they're
Yeah.
being robotic, they're
Yeah.
nervous, they're going to throw up in their mouth and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And to
Yeah.
your point earlier, the client senses that
Yeah.
stuff. And so, how do we get them comfortable? And so this is really cool. We walk in, and I said, we were standing outside, and I was like, most people overlook the gatekeeper. You want to bring them in, like,
Right.
they're
Yep.
human, right? And so, like, and guess what? A lot of times they have influence,
Yes. Yeah.
and they know the owners because of the small
Yeah.
businesses that
Yeah.
we're walking into. And so, like, treat them like they're human, bring them in the conversation. So we
Yeah.
walk in. I have this energy, and this is me. And so I'm like, what's up? And how's it going? And we were joking around. Stu introduced himself, and then I was like, yeah. And he's like, and this is Jason. And I'm like, I promise we're not a traveling comedy show. That's just my
Right.
corny sense of humor. She laughs.
Yeah.
He goes in and starts talking about why we're there, and asks, who makes the HR decisions. And she was like, oh, that's Sandy.
Mhm.
Sandy's sitting right behind her, right behind the receptionist, right? We can see Sandy. Sandy's
Mhm.
got her back to us, typing on the computer. Sandy doesn't turn around
Mhm.
at all. Like,
Actively
no
ignoring you.
headphones. She heard us, like,
Yeah.
right? She's typing, not trying to make any talk, not trying to be brought in this conversation. So Stu gives this spiel, and he asks, like, he does drug testing, DOT testing, and that kind of thing. He has a lab, and he specializes in 15-minute tests and great customer service and
Mhm.
small business, where you have a concentrium that is like 3 to 4 hours, and
Mhm.
it's like, like you're sitting next to the sick people, and like it's not a warm and fuzzy
Right.
feeling and all that kind of stuff. And so he said, he asked her, how long does it usually take for your people when you send them over there? Because he confirmed that that's who they were using. How long does it take them? And she's like, he asked, do they have have you had any complaints? And she was like, no, nobody usually complains. You're, like, kind of cold. And he's like, oh, that's funny. He's like, well, the reason why I ask is because most of the people I talk to say that it takes about an average of 3 to 4 hours. Like, I was just talking with a new client yesterday and was saying, like, that, it takes about 3 to 4 hours, and that's a lot of downtime that they have, an
Mhm.
employee out there, they're paying them, and then they're not able to come back and do their things. And then they got to wait even longer for the test results. And I said, well, thankful for you, because I can do 15-minute tests. Then I can let you know their results before they leave the parking lot. And she, like, literally got up out of her seat. I don't even know if it was like if it was like mental, like,
Yeah.
like it was something that she consciously did. She got up out of her seat, totally wall completely dropped. She walked over, picked up his pamphlet, and said, "Where'd you say you're at?"
Yeah.
Now, and then she started asking him questions.
Yeah.
And it was like, so we get out in the car, and he's like, so, what'd you think? And I was like, no, what did you think? What did you see happen?
Right.
And he was like, well, when we got in, she was very cold, very, there was a big wall. She didn't want to talk to us. She was like very like trying to get me out the door. And I'm like, and then what happened? He's like, I don't know. He's like, somehow she got really like nice and came over and started asking me questions. And now I have a follow up to call her next week. And I'm like, so like, well, I relayed to her what I have been seeing out everywhere else, and I told her a quick story, and then told her what makes us different and why people are signing up with us. But it was really quick, and he was like, I'm like, I don't know why that worked. I could, I know stories or work, if you can tell a good story really quickly, it can get people thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are she's never asked anybody how long it took. She didn't really care or worry about it. But then all of a sudden,
or it
she's
might
like,
not impact her.
might not impact her.
Yeah.
But now she's thinking like, oh, if I can save us 3 or 4 hours on average, and Stu's a good guy, this guy seems like a good family guy or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but whatever when he did that, her entire body language changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love going out and being able to point out, okay, let's have fun. Now let's look at it. Now, what happened through this process?
Yeah.
Now he was so excited because she was like, "Oh, well, I'll talk to the boss, and we'll have a conversation." That he was like, "Oh, great, I'll, have a good day, have a good life,
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, awesome. When are you going to talk to him?" And she was like, "Probably by next week." And I was like, "Okay, is it fair? Can we call you by next week?" And she was like, "You know what? Things are kind of crazy right now. This is the end of our busy season. Could you give me 2 weeks?" And I was like, "Great. Okay, so next Wednesday at 10 o'clock around this time. Does that sound good?" And she was like, "Perfect." Like, perfect, Stu, call her like pointing it out. You gotta, and so that's to take my coaching, my boot camp. It's really putting people in situations where they can not only become aware, but they can then change their habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love the Navy SEAL saying that in times of chaos, you don't rise to the occasion, but you fall back to your level of training.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times that people are like, oh, I'm just going to go out and wing it. What do you do? You go to a networking meeting. What do you do? And like get that knot in your stomach, like, oh my God, don't call on me. Everybody's got to go.
Yeah.
And then people will either talk, or they just say something very vague and nobody knows what they do.
Right.
Either you don't know what they do because you're like praying to the gods that they stop talking, or you don't know what they do because they don't talk enough.
Right.
Or, they don't have it figured out what they do.
Right.
They're like, I don't know, like
figure out how to
it's not very clear. It's not that they're not doing something, but they don't really see what it is that they're doing. Right. I've been there.
Yeah. 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 This follow up, and sometimes I'll say, well, you're handing the deal back to them. And actually what you've done now is you've given them an assignment.
Yes.
So now you have planted in their head that when I talk to Glenn, then I get an assignment and I have to remember to put it in my, it's like, no, you don't do that.
Yeah.
You relieve them of the concern about when are we going to talk next? You
lead the conversation.
And I don't, and new salespeople do that all the time. It's like, you can almost count on it. All right, send an email. If you have any questions about this, give me a call. They're like, no, dude, don't
That's like you have just about as good odds of winning the lotto on that one.
Don't do that. Say, I trust this. I trust this has been, is valuable information for you. I'll follow up with you, like you say. I'll give you a call on Tuesday to make sure that I've provided everything you need. Right. And the thing about me, I want to make sure, my goal is to make sure you always have the information you need to make a good decision. And that is a scary thing for a salesperson to do.
It absolutely is.
But that absolutely is a thing. Right?
That's how you become the guy or the woman, whatever it is. It's not a gender thing, but it's that's how you take control and how you serve your clients when you make it easy for them. The people that make communication easiest win almost every time.
Yeah. And the thought is, if I just say, call me when you need me, that's the easiest for them, but it isn't. Right.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. No,
that's when I got to remember, I got to go make a to-do for myself. Well, right. You gave them an assignment. Don't give them. Well,
and depending on what we do, if we wait till they call us when they need us, it could be too late.
Well, they're gonna forget about you. And the other thing that's a fascination for me in the current business environment is the thing about, it's likely that anybody that you're talking to that has expressed interest knows all about your company, and all about your competitors because
Mm.
it's so easy.
Yeah,
Chat, go in, ask it, who else sells this stuff? They're going to say, they're going to see the competitors, they're going to see where you rank among the competition, they're going to see all that stuff, right?
absolutely.
So if you start to think that you need to tell them things about what your company does and how you compare, they already know that. Right. Now, at a
True.
very
Yeah,
at a VIP level, it's not that way. But then that conversation has to be totally different because that's about they have a totally different ROI perspective and all those things. So that's a whole nother, the key account management topic, which I love, by the way, is account development and things about buying center and all those things. I love teaching that stuff because it's really, helps them open their eyes to what they're really dealing with, especially with a complex sale. But yeah, don't give them an assignment. Take the take take the responsibility and the accountability off of them and put it on yourself.
yep.
That's your job.
Yeah,
Right?
you make it easy, and
Yes.
then they enjoy that too. And then you look at it, and I think the stats are out there, like it takes like 12 to 15 touches in order to
It's
take a cold
crazy.
lead into
Crazy.
a
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
And so if you put that, just a little extra touch on it, so you set that conversation, and then before you leave, send a calendar invite. And
Yeah.
you're good at sending calendar invites. Like
Yeah.
if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
Like
That's a lot of
I'm
people.
very
Yeah.
calendar motivated or
Yeah.
driven, not motivated.
Yeah.
But send that invite. Now they see your name again.
Yep.
And so it's just how many times can you expose yourself to them?
Exactly. Yeah. Here to help.
Here to help.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And there was a time when the common wisdom was make sure that anytime you communicate with them that you're offering them something, an opportunity to learn. And I think that's even more of now.
Yep.
I think because you now it's absolutely marketers will tell you if you send an email that's more than 3 or 4 lines, they're not going to read it.
Oh
Just
man, no
forget it,
way.
right?
Yeah.
So if you send an email and say, "Hey, have a look at this," I ran across an article, read the article. They're not going
I'm
they're
not
going
saying
to see
email
how
doesn't
big.
work, but
Yeah.
this is the very low odds. It's a
Hmm.
very comfortable thing to do because
Hmm.
you don't get you don't get the pushback.
You're right.
It's very easy to hit send and not think about it. And
Right.
and most of the time, you don't get a response out of it. And, I'm not saying it all the time, but it's creating a strategy around the whole entire thing.
Around
If
the
you
thing.
send an
Yeah.
email first, make sure that you're following up with a call in a couple days
Yes. Right. Right.
because I can guarantee you that email went to junk mail, that it got buried in between other things. And
Yeah.
it's not even that, people are trying to forget you. A lot of times we get offended inside that, oh, that person's trying to avoid us or
Yeah.
anything else. And they could be trying to avoid you,
Yeah.
especially if you've been salesman on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of times people just have other things going
There's so
on.
much going on all the time. Yeah.
And all of a
Yeah.
sudden their priority shifted because their emotions shifted. And then
Yeah.
our job is to get them back in the emotions that they were in when they said, this is where we need to, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the stuff we're talking about is the reason why I love the profession.
Yeah.
It's like you can talk about rabbit holes, man. You can
Ah,
you can
man.
go down
Yeah.
a rabbit hole with how to do good opportunity management and communicating and the multiple touches and what should that look like and
I'm telling
what
you what, you'll win a lot of sales just by following up.
yeah,
Because
because
there's
nobody does
so
that.
few people that are actually doing that. I heard
Nobody does
one of my friends in our networking group a couple years ago. Her pitch was like, "And if you refer me, I'll actually follow up and with a call, or I'll actually call." And I'm like, "If that is that is, like that's a benefit
It's a
because that
little
should
bit
just be the
sarcastic, but
standard."
it's
It's a
good.
little
It's a
sarcastic,
good
but
yeah.
I've referred, and it's so crazy because I've referred people and connected people, and then I'll get responses back like, "Oh, that person never responded or never connected back," and it's like,
How can that be? Yeah.
I know
When you grow up in sales, it's like that can't happen.
that can't.
You can't let that happen.
No, no.
Yeah.
And if it does, hey, and I've had this happen where a message has slipped through the cracks, and I just sent a message up to my boot camp Tuesday boot camp crew the other day, or yeah, this morning, not today, not the other day. Is that just a reminder? Sometimes you miss emails, sometimes you miss messages, sometimes you miss calls. You forget to call somebody back, and sometimes it's been like 3 weeks, and you're like, oh God. And like if you internalize that and you don't make that call back, you'll like try to avoid that person if you see him out in public and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pick up the phone and call that person and be
Yep.
like, "Oh my God, I just noticed that I missed this call.
Yep.
I missed
Yep.
your message and I apologize. I just wanted to, reach back out and,
Yep.
see if I can help or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
I'm human. I
I'm
made a
human.
mistake. I'll fall on my sword.
Yeah.
Let's get back
Let's get
aligned.
back."
Yeah.
And I find that that oftentimes people that some of my great relationships have come from those just vulnerable moments.
Yeah. Yeah. You're human. You're human. I'm human. I make mistakes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Can you believe this has been like this is an hour and 46 minutes?
I
Like,
would have said maybe 40 minutes.
right?
Literally been
There was
sitting-
like I was looking at the time a little bit ago, and I was like, "Holy crap! I can't believe it's been that long. That's unbelievable. That's
It's been
unbelievable."
it's been really fun. It's really it's really fun to be sitting with somebody that's, I mean, we have very similar background, and the things that it's like our driving force to help salespeople be better salespeople and to be productive, and for business owners to have people where they can just say, they can operate without them, but they can operate without daily involvement from the owner. That's a big thing, right? Relieving them of the stress of, I got to keep track of these people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you put the people, process, and data in place, and being able to do that for them and answer the I don't know what I don't know it's very fulfilling. So yeah, so I feel like like I said, I I, I right away recognized, that we're brethren in that sense. So,
I knew we would jam in here
yeah,
pretty easily.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm so glad it worked out. Having lunch last week, it was like, hey, when you leaving to go back to Florida? 'Cause we need to get you in the studio before then.
Yeah, that was divine providence. Like when you started along that line, I said, no, there's no chance. I got to go up to Traverse City. And then you said Monday. I said, well, I'm here on Monday.
Awesome.
So I'm really happy that we got together. And yeah, that was definitely divine guidance to put us together for lunch. I really enjoyed the conversation at lunch. And I've enjoyed the heck out of this. This has been really good.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it.
First podcast. How'd it feel?
It was easy. I'll have to, of course, I will watch myself and go, what a putz. What is wrong with you?
We're all our biggest critic.
Yeah. But I mean, when I was a kid, I remember playing with these little reel-to-reel tape recorders, right, and recording my voice.
Yeah.
And listening back and going, you sound like an idiot. What is? And it is a lot. I think it's the same thing. I think it's a natural thing for people to watch themselves and say, that was really bad. You just did a really bad job. You're an embarrassment. What's wrong with you? Right.
I used to hate my voice. I used to hate it. I used to hate to listen to tape recording, and now I'm so used to it. I don't mind watching myself. I watch so much of myself. It's actually kind of disgusting. Not from a vanity standpoint, but I just have so much content.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah.
But I asked Gruley about that because I let him know. I saw him last week.
Yeah, the golf
Wednesday.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I have a hard time watching myself. And I said, I know that's going to happen to me. But
Gruley is like this. He's like so wise. Like I watched him for hours as I was like cutting his clips. So he got like 25 clips. So it was like really going through. Oh my God, there's just so much. There's so much in there. He's got such a way of telling stories and wisdom.
Exactly. And he's really self-deprecating. I said to him, I said, listen, when you talk about a concept and you put a story behind it,
yep.
I said, you are so skilled
yep.
with that, like connecting the dots, connecting two dots with a straight line.
Yep.
I said, you don't realize how good you are at that. I said, I love talking with them and I love spending time with them because it's like, and he'll come up with these and he doesn't really even realize that he's done it. Right. And I just look at him and go, gosh, I wish I could do that. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I love Mike. He's
really just a great guy. Great guy.
Great guy. Yeah.
Yep. Man, Glenn, this has been so awesome. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to make it happen before you're up to Traverse City. Yeah. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's good.